You have it. Kevin Bloom walking out of a Muskegon County jail in Michigan after being sentenced for being an accessory after the fact in the murder of Jessica Heringa. Well, he is serving 5 years probation and has to wear a GPS device. And as Mark Eiglarsh and I were talking about earlier, it might not be justice for the family, but this guy's life will be not as free as he thinks moving forward. All right, we do want to preview again what's happening later on today. We do have a new trial that we've been covering here, the Jason Riley King case out of California. We expect the live feed to begin again at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is the case of that Marine who's accused of driving the wrong way while drunk, causing a head-on freeway collision that killed 2 UCSD medical students and injuring 3 others. He is charged with a litany of different things, including murder, which is a very interesting thing to bring up in this kind of case. He's charged with murder, 2 counts of gross vehicular manslaughter while impaired, DUI resulting in great bodily injuries, and driving with the blood alcohol content in excess of 0.14 causing injury. We'll make sure to cover that case as soon as we have a live feed. But right now I want to focus on a new special segment that we have for you, a new story that's out of here, New York. The NYPD is now facing, and Mayor de Blasio are facing some heat. The New York Police Union, in a recently filed suit, is claiming that Mayor Bill de Blasio and NYPD Commissioner James O'Neill are breaking the law by releasing police body cam footage without getting a court order first. They're trading officers' safety for political gain. Let's talk a little bit about the merits of this lawsuit. As I said, we're joined right now by criminal defense attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Mark, this case, what's going on here? What's the theory? How is this illegal?
I like this. I like the conflict here. And I think the only way it's going to get resolved is going to be through a judge saying, no, 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 de Blasio, or hey, officers, suck it up. So on one side, de Blasio is saying, yes, we understand there generally has to be a court order in order to release the body cam footage. However, we can release portions of it, and that's different than if we release the whole thing, which we understand. You're correct when you say that's part of our personnel file, the whole day's footage, but we're just releasing portions of it, and that changes everything, according to de Blasio and company.
I'm not sure I understand that. If I had a personnel record, I had something that's private, and you release some of my information, but not everything, you're still releasing things that you shouldn't be releasing, right? I'm not sure how that's a viable argument on their perspective.
I'm not sure either, and we're going to have to hear exactly. They don't spell it out in these articles, but their argument is that we're releasing portions of the video, and for some reason, when you're looking at portions of it, that's different than if you're releasing the entire day's footage, them going to the bathroom, them having, innocuous conversations with neighbors. This is just portions of it. Again, don't kill the messenger. I don't exactly know the distinction, but maybe there's some precedent. I don't know.
What I'm confused about, and I think people who are reading this, is what's the big deal? Why don't they just get a court order if they want to release it? What's the harm in trying to get a court order? Why even go through this whole thing of trying to release it without getting approval first? I mean, shouldn't they at least do it?
All right, so number one, the argument is they're going to make, well, that takes time. And sometimes you've got the media putting cameras in your face right then and there, demanding transparency. There was a shooting, and the commissioner or the mayor believes it was justified, and they want to immediately avoid some kind of riot, avoid people criticizing. With social media, you can be blasted in 2 seconds, the time that you're going to look for a judge who might be on the golf course. So they want to immediately put everyone, relax everybody, take a look at this camera, this body cam video, and you'll see that this person who was shot clearly pointed a gun at officers, and officers were forced to shoot in self-defense.
So, okay, that makes sense to me. I'm convinced by that argument. I'll take the other side then. Okay, I see the dangers of not releasing that body cam footage. I mean, the first footage that was released was back in September of 2017. They released about a police-involved killing. It was a 48-minute video showing Bronx resident Miguel Antonio Richards threatening cops with a fake gun and a real knife before he's killed in a police barrage of bullets. I think it's important to show that. I think it's important for people to see that. So then the counter argument could be, all right, if they're releasing this, then you don't need a court order. So what's the flip side of it? Why do you need a court order?
That's why I love you, because you flip things and you give everybody a fair and balanced analysis. So let's flip it. And I actually feel a little bit more strongly about this. Okay. So first of all, I'm not even used to this discussion because in Florida, we have such liberal discovery rules that the media can immediately get access to all this stuff, no problem. So it's interesting that there's actually a state or many states out there that do protect this type of stuff from being released. Here's some of the problems with it. When you immediately release footage concerning a pending criminal investigation, you compromise that investigation. Period. You shouldn't do it. Secondly, you also have victims, family members, and they're going to be very disturbed by seeing these images right away before proper protocols were taken, before these people were even had meetings with police to find out what happened. It's not a question of should it be released, in my opinion. It's just when. Eventually it'll get out. Just when, Jesse, when.
So in other words, the dangers could be, first of all, the victims have to watch this, right? They have to watch their family members or friends who are getting killed or attacked in this.
Before they even know what happened.
Before they even know what happened.
Right? The mayor will have it out there within seconds. These people are at work to find, hey, did you hear about what happened to your loved one? No, I didn't. I didn't see the news. What happened? Really? That's going to happen now? Okay.
Yeah. And then, I mean, that's an awful scenario, and you never want to see that. But I guess the other danger is, doesn't it put the police officers who were involved in that incident in danger as well?
Yes, I mean, absolutely.
We see these shootings.
Here's the other thing. The police are complaining that de Blasio and others will release the portions of the video that they want to release, which could be politically motivated and not necessarily to showcase what really happened, the entire incident. Maybe the maybe the mayor doesn't release, let's say, footage from 30 minutes earlier when the officer is hearing a barrage of threats from this person, certain things that would alter how the thing went down. Maybe because the officer was using profanity and the mayor doesn't want that to get out there. But that then doesn't then show the whole picture. By doing so, the public then can erroneously conclude something very different, and that could jeopardize the officers.
I think that's a really great point, Mark, and I'm glad you brought it up, is that if they do edit it and they do redact it and they release this kind of edited version out, you could be like, well, what did you cut out? Did you cut out when who was the aggressor here? What really happened? And I think that's such a key point here.
Let's flip it. I'm going to flip it on you because you flip it on me.
Sure.
Let's flip it. Then you release, okay, all right, so release everything. What media outlet, including your network, is going to, well, you guys might put the entire thing out there, but most are going to they're going to edit what they want, right, and they're going to then put out the clips that they want, right? And then now you've got a bastardized version of what really occurred, and then the public draws their own perceptions. I've seen that before. I've seen clips of certain things, and then I go and I watch the entire thing, and it's a wholly different scenario. So that's why the police don't want it out there, because the minute you put the stuff out there, people can edit it, they could do what they want, and it's just not right.
It's rare that you have a short clip that tells the whole story. We covered a case here, Mark. It was a Ray Tensing shooting. This guy out of Ohio stopped this guy who was in his car, and then sped away. But basically the question became, it was a shooting where he shot the guy in the front seat. It was all in a matter of, I would think, 3 minutes, and it was all determination of what did this officer do, how did he approach the car, why did he take out his gun, why did he shoot this guy, and it was all a matter of 3 to 5 minutes. But when you have these other kind of scenarios, you don't know what's built up before, you don't know what's built up after, and I wonder if the idea of the body cam footage pilot program does more harm than good.
It just depends. In certain instances, I believe that the mayor is well-intended. You got people with metaphoric pitchforks standing outside, and they want to burn the town down because yet another person of color was shot by police. And just releasing that footage would immediately allay concerns about the officer's motivations. And so I understand that side of it. On the other side, I certainly understand, and we just gave the reasons why it might not be a good idea. So that's why I go back to what I said earlier. You need someone wearing the black polyester robe to get up there and say, here's how I see it. And they're going to have to rule on this legally in a court of law.
You talk, that brings me to my next point, the legal aspect of this. This all came about because back in 2013, stop and frisk was ruled unconstitutional. And I would like your thoughts. I haven't had a chance to talk to you about it, but how that kind of ties into what we see in the current debate right now, the current issue right now about police transparency.
Why don't I turn this around? You tell me what you think first.
Well, I think that look, I think we have a great discussion here today about it perfectly. I think the idea of when it should be clear about why police stop certain individuals. I think it should be clear to have police transparency, and we should have that. But it should not be at the cost of endangering the lives of the police, endangering the investigation. And I think it really becomes that balancing test. And I think it's so tricky. And we talk about balancing tests in other kinds of arenas. But here, it becomes even more difficult because you have so many people's lives at stake. And you talk about the outpouring of what would happen from these shootings and what would happen from these incidents, and it makes it an extremely difficult balancing test. Now, however, we live in a world today where people can get content, they can get information in a faster way than they ever did before. So I think it's extremely important to create a coherent narrative put forward by the police department about what happens before people come up with their own theories. And I think it's really important because you don't want the police to have unfettered access and unfettered ability to do what they want, but it becomes a tricky balancing test. That's my perspective.
I agree with you. And the best scenario is not us versus them, meaning the politicians versus the police, which I think unfortunately is always going to be a scenario. But as it relates to releasing video, maybe there's a way that they can come to the table and say, look, we want to release this, and try to come up with some way to agree. And then ultimately, if you can't agree, then whoever the judge rules in favor of can do whatever they want.
Or at least, and you know, Mark, you know this much better than me. If you want to get a search warrant, okay, what's the time frame to make that happen, to get that warrant from a judge? Because couldn't you do a streamlined process to get this get a approval from a judge here?
It depends. And what the mayor is saying is whether it's a half an hour, whether it's 4 hours, because again, the judge on duty is fishing and he shouldn't be. We shouldn't have to wait at all to prevent the town from being burned down when all we have to do is release footage which clearly shows the shooting was justified. So the mayor's point, I suppose, and again, I didn't hear what he has to say, and I'm just guessing what the arguments would be, is that any time that we have to wait is too long because of the speed of the media these days. Within minutes, something happens, somebody shoots a teeny portion of it, it looks like the police are being too aggressive, but the body cam video would show an entirely different point of view, as we've seen in other cases. So I understand both sides here.
Yeah, that's a great point, because people can, how many times have we covered cases, or how many times have you seen in the news, people have their own cell phones and they videotape the police officers who are doing it, and the police officers have their own body cam footage, and you don't capture everything that's said on a body cam footage when a police officer is talking.
Here's the example, and I know you're going to be pushing the button, worried about what I'm going to say, but just hear me out on this. This is the example I used actually when I saw Nancy Grace not too long ago, and I complained to her about how she would cut me off when I'd be on her show, and that wouldn't afford me the opportunity to finish my thought, and that affected the meaning of what I had to say. Same thing goes with releasing portions of video from a body cam. So for example, this is from a song by a group called Lit. So hang on for a second.
Sure.
It sounds good at first. The chorus went, "You make me come. You make me complete. You make me completely miserable." Where you cut someone off in a sentence, or where you stop a body cam video, can adversely affect or can shade the true meaning of what either the scene looks like or what somebody's trying to convey.
I 100% agree with you. And Also, great rendition. I didn't know you had that ability. It's good to know when we do future.
I kill.
You know, Mark, we cover sometimes copyright song cases, and we have to hear the different verdicts, the different verses. Maybe we'll have you on. You know, you could sing different lyrics from different parts.
Yes. Okay, sure.
All right, Mark, thank you so much. This is a really important case, and I'm happy that we had you on to talk about the NYPD, what's going on here, as well as what happened with Kevin Bloom, which we talked about earlier. We really appreciate your insight into this, and we can't wait to have you back on to talk about one of our live trials once we have it back up.
I always enjoy it with you, Jesse. Thanks so much.